Alright, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to channel Anderson. Got my hair tied up like crazy right now, so don't mind, but keeping it out of my face while I'm working here on the ML63. You guys haven't seen this thing for a while on the channel. It's actually going to be up for sale soon. We just decided we love the ML55, and out of the two, I think we're going to keep that one. So that's really the only reason why we've loved having this thing. But anyways, besides the point, we'll talk about that more later. But right now, we were taking care of the power steering pump on it. Yes, right before I'm deciding to sell it, it decided to fail, so that's okay. We're hooking somebody up, the next owner, with a nice sorted vehicle. That's what I always try to do with all my cars, so don't want to give anybody a car with some problems unless it's just something super known. But this happened right after we did the AC compressor. The power steering pump was making bearing noise. Like, I was driving around and it just, the bearing noise, the power steering pump didn't fail, but it probably would if I kept driving it the way it is now. If I grab on the pulley here, you guys can hear that. It's basically got a lot more play than it should, which means the bearing on the actual pulley is probably on its way out. Comparing that, if you could hear what I was just doing, this is like totally smooth. There's no axial play on it. On that one, there's definitely a bit of axial play, and just overall it just doesn't sound right. So I'm in the middle of it. There are 2 bolts on the front, and the reason I'm making this video, I didn't really feel like it, to be honest, but the reason I'm making it is because there's really no good video on an ML63 power steering pump. But there are 2 T45 bolts that hold the front bracket in, and then it looks like there are 3 probably T45 as well, bolts that connect these back ones to the actual engine block. So I'm gonna need to go through the driver's side wheel well, most likely. I don't know if I got super creative. I could probably do it from up here. I tried at first, but it's not looking like the move. So I'm gonna pop this wheel off, get it jacked up, and that way we'll have a lot easier access to those 3 bolts and to the banjo bolt down there. And sorry, I don't know what you guys can see right now because the sun just decided to literally come right where we are working. So it's making things kind of hard to see with the shadows and stuff, but making it work. I have a lot going on right now with all the cars, as you can maybe see. We have 7 Benzes in the driveway right now, well, including the 2 in the garage, and there's actually 1 more on the way, which by the time you guys see this, you'll probably have seen it, so I can say it now. A 190 is on the way that we are swapping the drivetrain out of this into for the Benzin on a Budget series. So that's already underway. So if you guys are interested, go look at my other videos on my channel and you can find that. But this will probably come out after that has already been announced. So yeah, let's jack this thing up, get to work, and I will just try to show you guys at least the key details, because there's literally only 1 other video I found. And I mean, thank you to that person for taking a little bit of time to do it, but it didn't give much. So I'm gonna try to give you guys a little more, at least enough to know what to do. I don't have to film every single thing, but I can point the key things out and show you or tell you what to do, hopefully. So alright guys, she's all jacked up. Safety first. I'd rather sacrifice a wheel than my life. So yeah, gotta pop this thing out. I think there is 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil, all plastic nuts, and then it has these little retainers too. Oh, there's another 2 10 mils right there. I can't remember. I think we just took the front. I don't need to take this back one off. I think I'm just gonna take the front one off. So 10 mil, 10 mil, all these little riv nuts, and then I gotta separate these 2. So we'll leave this one as is. It's not gonna get in the way at all. So let's do that. I guess I should mention as well, sorry, can't see with the shadow, but reservoir, I took it out. There's a T30 in there, and then I drained this as much as I could. I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna try to take this off or if I'll just try to wiggle everything out with these things still attached. So I'll make up my mind afterwards, I guess. It's only 1 connection onto the pump itself, and I believe it's with a little hose clamp. So if anything, I'll just undo it from down there leave this as is, and yeah, see what kind of mess I make down there. Alright guys, everything is out. Only two that I missed to tell you guys about. Two 10 mils down at the bottom right here as well. But yeah, now we got access. I mean, it's not a whole lot, but it's better than what we have from up top. So this way we can just see what's going on exactly back here. And yeah, hey, you know what? Is there actually 3 that are holding it in place? I see 1 right there. And maybe one more back here in the back. Is there another one that's actually attached? We'll see, I guess, but yeah, that's where we're at for now, guys. Alright guys, well, I am stuck for now. I need to run to Harbor Freight, but I don't have time, so I'm going to check back with you guys later for this video. My Torx just doesn't fit. It's too tight of a squeeze with the socket and even my thin like flat wrench, so it's gonna have to be a specialty tool on the back here to get to these. Super annoying, man. If they were just regular bolts, I could just get them off, no problem, but of course they gotta be Torx heads. So check back with you guys. Alright guys, told you there was another car coming. Anyways, if you're interested in that, we got a whole video series going on. Ben's in on a budget right now. It'll explain these two. Man, that thing's so dirty. I gotta pressure wash it. But we are back to the power steering pump. Ran out of time yesterday going to pick that 190E up, and today I was waiting until it got a little bit cooled down. So we made some progress, and I'm MacGyvering myself out of a scenario. We got one of the back bolts off, and literally all I was using was this. The good old tiny spanner over the hex bit trick, because I could not find anywhere nearby that had the tool set I needed in stock today. So I don't feel like getting it shipped and waiting 3 days to be able to finish this. I just want to finish it. We're very close. The other key tidbit I will tell you, again, the back ones are T45, so we verified that. This Allen hex banjo bolt is a 22 millimeter. So using the best tool ever from Harbor Freight, this flexing, ratcheting 3/8 and quarter long spanner. Put the 22 millimeter on it. I just have a 3/8 to 1/2 inch adapter because I don't have a 22 millimeter and 3/8. So got to it from down here. You could maybe get to it from up top if you have the right extension or tool, but it was easier through the wheel well here. So I think there's only one more bolt holding this in. Maybe not, actually. Maybe the banjo bolt is the only thing. So let me get that off, and then we can see if this has anything else that is holding it on. Alright guys, well, I think no matter what, I'm gonna be making a tool store run right now. I'm stuck on the last bolt. It's right below that little arm where the wires are sitting in the back right there. And literally, you got like an inch between that and the black pipe coming off the block right there. It is just frustrating right now. I got everything else done. If I had the right tool, it probably would have been done by now, but thought I could get away with it. I cannot. So going to Harbor Freight. So literally about this long. This is a little more than an inch. They have a kit that should have something, but it's a T40 is the biggest in the kit, which this is a T40. I was gonna try it. It's supposed to be T45. This does fit okay. So they're not very tight. So I'm hoping that if I can get something that's at least T40, I think I can get it loose and get it good to go. So let's go to the tool store. All right, you guys, today is the day. We got to get this thing going. We're so close. I just went to Harbor Freight, picked up what I'm hoping will be a good enough tool to make this work. Look how tiny this thing is. I was like walking across the aisle like 7 times. Finally had to ask them, hey, do you guys know where this is? And then they showed me it's in a tiny, tiny box. This is a basically little hex pass-through ratchet, and I'm gonna try to make it work. It only has up to T40. They don't have a T45, so the T40 does grip on the T45s like a good amount, so, and they're not very tight, so I'm really hoping this is gonna work. I also picked up this one. It's just like the cheaper version of this, but this one has a lot more meat on it. So with this thing, let me put the camera down real quick. So with it installed, it is probably just about an inch across, maybe a hair more, but this is going to give us the most space that I'm going to get basically. So my reference point was this bit, and if we look at these, it's actually smaller than just a bit alone, and I think this fit back there. So this hopefully will do the trick for that last bolt. I will update you guys in a second. Oh my god, you guys, there's a reason nobody's made a video about this, because nobody wants to tell you the dark secret of that bottom back corner bolt. Holy crap, dude, my fingers are wrecked. Oh, luckily our tool, like literally this might be one of the only tools that will fit back there. So Icon, ratcheting, flex, whatever this wrench is, kit. I'm sure there's other stuff out there, but not even like a slim Torx or something. I don't think, unless you have a 1/4 inch drive with a super slim Torx, is gonna fit back there. And even after I got the bolt spun a bunch of times, still spinning it by hand, I had to use like every ounce of finger strength I could to just slowly start turning the bolt. My goodness, man. Well, this thing is super gunked up, and yeah, we're gonna be ditching this thing. So oh man, I am leaning towards going through my hardware stash right now and just putting on some regular hex head bolts. And to be honest, I don't even know if I'm going to put that third bolt on. I don't feel like it's necessary, to be honest. Like, there's already 2 there and 1 back here that's a triangle of keeping the thing tight. So I'm going to put those 3 on first when I reinstall the new one, and see if it feels solid. I am not even going to try to put that one on, because it is that much of a nightmare and a headache, and just don't see the point. That may have been the most tedious bolt I've ever had to get out of a car. That was, yeah, not fun. Oh man. Alright guys, just made it back from the hardware store, picked up a couple bolts, because if I can use a hex head and a wrench, I will definitely do it instead of going through that Torx saga again. I looked like 3 different auto parts stores. Nobody had the right size crush washer, so I'm gonna go try to send it and reuse old ones. I did have some other ones, but they're super thick, and I just don't want to throw off the offset by that much of the threads, because it's really not that long of a banjo bolt, and these are quite thick in comparison. Sorry, it's not focusing. Well, I was trying to show you guys, these are super thick washers, so I don't want to risk it being that offset. So most important part before any of that is trying to get the new pump in, so I will do so now. I'm going to start off with the 2 bolts on this side to get it kind of squared up, and then we will start trying to finesse our bolts into the back, which is not going to be too much fun, but we'll do it. Alright guys, new pump is in. I'll show you from below. Just got to hook up our lines and our banjo bolt. I am electing right now, it's an executive decision. You guys can call me a bad mechanic, whatever, but I am not putting that back bolt in. It is just asking for trouble. And with 3 anchor points already on this thing, I just don't think that it's necessary. So fingers crossed, should be good. The way the belt is pulling, it's pulling that way anyways, so it's not like it's pushing this thing outward or putting extra tension on, you know, that one bolt right here in the back. So I think we are good. And I just need to hook up our banjo bolt and our line right there, and then start the process of getting the fan and everything back in. Alright guys, I was just having a moment. Better heads prevailed. I put all 4 bolts back. Honestly guys, if you're doing this, the biggest piece of advice I have is go to the hardware store after you pull those M8 bolts out and go get hex head bolts. I know Torx head bolts are a little bit stronger, but they aren't that much stronger, so it's worth putting the hex head bolts in. This took me 5 minutes to do both at most. It literally took me an hour to try to get that back bolt out alone, in the back side. The front one, not too bad, but the back one was a nightmare with the Torx on it. So, hi. All right, hose is attached, just need to do the banjo bolt, and we can start putting this thing back together. All right, you guys, I'm losing light, so I'm gonna finish this job up in the morning. Catch you guys then. All right, you guys, next morning, it's time to finish this thing up. One little thing I wanted to point out to you guys before we move forward. This connector right here is for the AC line, I believe. Make sure you unplug that when you're doing the banjo bolt. It just gives you a little more space. But now that we're done, let's make sure we put that back. And there we go. Alright, got to put our belt back on, so I will pop up the diagram on screen here, and then we'll get our fan back in here, which is going to be a little tricky. Alright guys, we got our fluid filled up as much as we can for now. We're going to have to bleed it obviously, so I'll start it and then do so. I used the European pre-stone. I had this in there before, after a whole cycle of different fluids, which I shouldn't have done. But anyways, you can use this, or you can also use CHF 202, or the other one is the green bottle CHF. I can't remember. This one, a lot of people don't know, but this is the newer version of that green bottle one that people typically go with. I think it's like the 101 or something. I can't remember what it is, but this is a newer formula, and it's backwards compatible. And yeah, so you can use that. I think it's full synthetic, everything. So that's another option, but this is more expensive and harder to find. Usually Napa or places will have it, but anyways, I just already had one bottle of pre-stone stuff, so I went and grabbed 2 more, and that should be plenty. So we are almost ready. We just got to get the fan back in, and I'll tighten my belt up and go from there. Alright guys, pulley is tight. I did put a new tensioner on in this process, and the tension does feel a little bit better actually, from what I remember. All the pulleys are pretty much new except for that bottom one, which this one doesn't really do much, to be honest. Like, you can spin it by hand, even with tension on it, so it just kind of guides from the crank to the AC compressor. So literally guys, this one is like a couple months old. AC is brand new, power steering pump is brand new, tensioner is brand new. So yeah, we're in pretty good shape as far as pulleys go on the front assembly. So now I don't want to start it without the fan, because I don't know what type of errors that will cause. So I'm going to put the fan back in here, as much as I would like to have all this space permanently. But yeah, fan will go back in right now. I'll get the core support back on, and we will continue with our bleed. Alright guys, fan is back in. Now my strategy for this for you guys, the fan needs to go in at an angle first. The first big hurdle is getting past the radiator hose on this side, the larger hose. Once you do that, you're still sitting at an angle. After that, you're gonna have to get the two prongs from the fan past these two hard lines. The hard lines will swivel out of the way a little bit, so you just have to kind of like pry them over with your fingers and push in the plastic clip to get it past it one at a time. And after you get through those two on this side and the radiator hose on that side, you can pretty much start sliding it down and it'll fit into place. To make sure it's not you know, pulling off, make sure it slits into the grooves. There's little like seats for it on each side, and then once it's up here, it just sits on the lip of the radiator. So that should be good. And then obviously make sure your fan is plugged back in. Just feel for the prongs. They're down there. There's two smaller ones on the bottom and two bigger ones. The two smaller ones are on the forward facing side, so yeah, just be mindful of that. Let me make sure I got this thing seated correctly, and then we'll start buttoning everything up. Alright guys, we are seated correctly. I'll try to show you. Alright, hard to see, but if you can see right there, just straight down, it's blurry right now, but that's the area right there. You just got to check to make sure they're seated on both sides. So now it's sitting pretty, not moving at all. So we're ready to get all of our front valance and whatever support on with all of our bolts. So let's do that, and then we'll start buttoning everything back up. All right guys, front core support is back on. Everything's nice and stable. We're good to go. Don't forget, you got two 10mm bolts on each side of the radiator. Mine only has one right now, but it's pretty secure even without them. But yeah, those are the longer bolts. All my box of bolts that I took off is replaced except for these two nuts, which I can't remember what they were for. I feel like they might have been the old ones that were replaced off of something that I replaced, but I can't remember right now. But don't think it's for anything too important. So we are moving on. I am ready to start it, I think. I'm gonna leave the wheel off, leave it up in the air, start it, turn the steering wheel. Yeah, I'll try to turn the steering wheel without starting it first, and yeah, go through the bleeding procedure. I forget what Mercedes' actual bleeding procedure is. It's something like 30 turns in the air, check fluid, 30 turns in the air again. And I think that's without starting it, and then start it, same thing, and then on the ground, same thing. I typically, if I'm on the smooth garage, I typically just put them down on the garage floor and turn it on the ground, because I find that it bleeds it a little better with some actual resistance on the tires versus just bleeding it in the air. But we'll do that first, just see how it goes, and then pick up from there. Alright guys, well, fingers crossed, we are ready to start it. Maybe not start it yet. Let's try to cycle fluids. Get out of the way, thank you. Alright. Alright guys, I'm gonna do this for a while, so I'll check back with you guys. Alright guys, I've cycled the steering quite a bit manually, and it's gone down maybe a tiny bit in the reservoir, so I think I'm ready to start it, and we will continue this bleeding. Probably do it another 30 times while the car is on, and then we'll check fluid levels. I'm gonna check it right after I start, actually, just to make sure it didn't suck down a bunch, and then we'll start our turning process and check it probably every 10 turns. So let's go ahead and fire it up. It's been a while. Alright. Sucked a bunch of fluid down, so I had to drop you guys real quick. Let's go start cycling it. That weird warbly noise you guys hear is the air suspension. If you guys are unfamiliar, it sounds like not good noises. Definitely got a little bit of lift or tick right now, probably just from sitting for so long, especially up at an angle like this. But it feels good. Alright guys, fluid seemed consistent. It's not jumping down a bunch more now. I think it's pretty much bled, so I'm gonna go ahead, drop it down. I'll put our wheel well back in, wheel back on, drop it down to the ground, and go from there. Alright you guys, she's a bit low rider status right now. The air suspension needs to pick up, but we are on the ground and put back together. It is so nice to be at this part. So I'm gonna start it up again, cycle through, make sure fluid's good, and then we can go on a test ride. Alright you guys, we're back to normal height. You just heard the air compressor going off. Fluid level looks good, so we need to go test it out. And also, I didn't mention before, but this reservoir was almost brand new, so that's why I didn't change it. If you were doing the power steering pump and hadn't changed that, I would recommend probably doing that at the same time, but we should be good for a test drive. So got to move the ML55 out of the way and go for a test drive. Alright guys, ML55 is out of the way, just topped up the oil. Let's go for a test drive. And hopefully, I'm sure our ticking will go away once we drive for a little bit, but we'll check it once we get back. Alright you guys, we are cruising. Ticking has gone away. I'll show you guys once we stop, but oh, I forget every time just how enjoyable this car is to drive. It's so comfortable and so fast. The seats are so good. They hug you in nice and tight. It's such a good car. It really does like push me back and forth every time about selling it or keeping it, but it's just hard to justify keeping it with the rest of the fleet, to be honest. As much as I love it, I don't know, I go back and forth on it. It's hard. It's a hard decision, but something's got to move, and I think it might just be time. I'm not sure, guys. You're driving around so comfortable, and then you can forget it that it does that. This thing's so fast. It's kind of crazy. Such a good car. Alright guys, back home, you can hear no ticking. It was just from sitting for so long. It's typical M156 behavior, so let's go check the engine bay. Alright, there she is. Sounds very nice. Nice and healthy. The belt is dead even. We're good. Alright, I'm gonna throw this front cover back on, and you know what? Some of the best news about this is get to focus on this again, because I needed to get this moved in order to get that moved anyway, so I kind of took a break on that, and especially while I was doing everything with the C230 and the 190. Now this can move around. Guys, it's for sale, so $12K. That is like the steal of the year pretty much for one of these. If you know what these are and know all the work that I've done to it, this thing is pretty much bulletproof, and with a brand new power steering pump and AC compressor now, like, I'm kind of giving this thing away. I know that, but in reality, I got to experience it for a couple years for not much more than that, and I'm happy to be able to hook somebody up with a good deal, and honestly a really good family car. It's just, for me, having 8 of these things right now, it just doesn't make sense for us to keep it. That's really it. I wish I could And I could really if I wanted to, but it's just space, paying more insurance for another family car, when in reality we use ML55 for that most of the time. You know, every year registration is expensive here in Washington, so it's just, you know, it's saving a little bit of expense and one less car to try to maintain, especially while I'm trying to do all these other big projects. If I just had 2 or 3 cars, I would keep this all day long. Even 4 or 5 cars that I wasn't doing any big projects on, I would not sell it at all. But because we're going to be doing a whole drivetrain swap, figuring out the rest of the CLK, probably doing a manual swap on the C36 this year, it just, yeah, that's it, guys. So those that watch the channel, you guys know how much this thing has been sorted. I mean, brand new brakes in the front, all of the typical top end stuff you would want to do on an M156 has been done. The head bolts, the lifters, the 63 Motorsports, cam adjuster plates, ARP hardware, it's titanium hardware holding the cam adjusters. It's like everything dialed in that you would want to. It has an intake modification, it has a catch can, it's tuned by Race IQ with longevity and reliability in mind. I don't know what else, guys. We've tackled so many little things on this car to make it just bulletproof, because in all intended purposes we were planning to keep this as our family vehicle for a long time, but plans change. So that's it, guys. I will leave it right there. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope that this helped because I couldn't find anything on the ML63 power steering pump. So hopefully this will help you guys out there that have to do it. And shoot me an email, anderson.amg@gmail.com, if you're interested in buying the ML63. You guys know the deal, 12K, it's all yours. It's probably the best deal in the country right now, and hopefully she goes fast and to a good home. Most importantly, I'm going to be a little bit picky about that, so be ready for some questions back from the seller, not just from you guys. So anyways, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.